The Project. Kuwait. Learn. Live. In today's episode of The Project, find out what CrossFit, a clown, and Meg all have in common with dodgeball. And what happens when you really overtrain? How bad can it get? What full circle really looks like as an elite athlete, and then going back to the PVC pipe and dead hangs on a bar, and how to overcome it. All this and more in today's episode. Okay, welcome to The Project. I am Mahdi, joined by
Liam
and Meg.
And we're going to talk about a bunch of CrossFit stuff today. Why we love to hate it. So, I mean, everyone's kind of like, why get into CrossFit? Why'd you guys get in? I'm more curious about what went on.
Oh, Meg, do you want to take it first?
Sure. All right. I was forced into CrossFit. So in college athletics, I was a swimmer, and CrossFit came about in my sophomore year. Our strength coaches wanted to shift our strength training to a CrossFit style. So, we started it in the summer season. I remember the first workout we did, I think it was like jumping bar muscle ups and some sprints and some kettlebell swings. And we all just thought the coach was really pissed at us that day. We really didn't know we were getting into CrossFit. But that's what started with that summer training. They did CrossFit with us. It shifted our entire training system for swimming the rest of the season. The more we focused on that type of training, we decreased our hours actually in the pool, just created a lot more variety in our training, and everybody got a lot better. So I only had 2 years left of college. This was in 2006. So I had 2 years left of college at that point. We were doing CrossFit training year round to stay in shape. And then once swimming had ended, I didn't want that competition void to be left. And so that's when the strength coaches opened up the first affiliate in our city. So they left the university, and I just kind of followed with them. And we started hosting like little local throwdowns, and that turned into us filling up a bus of like 20 people and driving out to Colorado in 2008 or 2009, I think it was, for the first regionals, the first year that they had regionals.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So we went out there. So I competed against like Matt Chan and Pat Sherwood. They were in that region that year. Nice. And so, yeah, we had like 20 of us out there, and I think I finished 12th that year. And then that just kind of, started wanting to continue competing, and trained for it the next couple of years, went to regionals the next year where they had like the sectionals. They introduced the open and all that kind of stuff the next year. Always finished like 10th, 11th, like right in that time. But yeah, up until 2011, that's when I competed in CrossFit and trained that way.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool that you kind of started right at the beginning, like when it all started up. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot of people that jump into it like later on, and they're like, yeah, I'm in the CrossFit thing, you know? So...
Yeah,
and it was very early on.
Pretty much an OG.
Yeah. I know a lot of
so you were the let's finish the WOD and like go hang out after it, like when people didn't walk around like they had a badge of honor on their shirt and treat everyone like dirt. I mean, that's what CrossFit's turned into.
We were,
sorry.
We jump straight in there and throw it out there.
All right. I'm sorry. We'll save that one for later.
We were CrossFit Omaha, so we were the 121st affiliate in the world, and we were the first one in Nebraska. So this was started by Joe Westerlin, he's like one of the only level 4s out there with CrossFit. He's on seminar staff. He travels all over. He comes to the Middle East actually to do some level 2s and things like that. But so he was the owner of CrossFit Omaha. And then just a few years ago, he passed that on to Stacy Tovar. So now it's Stacy Tovar and her husband, Dustin, that are running CrossFit Omaha. So that's where it all started. We started running it out of the university the first year. Had about 30 community members. And then once we got kind of past that point, then they bought a old warehouse. It was like an old shooting range. And revamped that into, so it was just a dirty old gym.
Oh, dude, so you were legit like,
yeah,
that's awesome.
It was old box gym. Yeah.
Proper CrossFit OG.
Not a lot of people know because I don't do it now. So it's funny, like when I do join classes now, people like want to like tell me about CrossFit and talk to me about it, and I'm just like, tell me again.
Have you got 5 minutes to talk about it? Lord and Savior CrossFit?
Tell me all about it. But yeah, so that was cool. Being part of the regionals when like it was at that small intimate level, like the affiliate owners that hosted it got to pick the workouts. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. 2009 was, I think, the first year that they had team events at the games. And I was supposed to go with the team that year. And then I got into a little car wreck before. And I think that it busted my confidence more than anything. I was kind of scared to get back in training and go. I probably could have gone and done fine. Kind of one of the big regrets that I have. So I didn't go. But yeah, it was exciting just to watch the whole like evolution of it. And then the next year, I think they were at the, what's the stadium that they used to have it at in California? StubHub Center. Yeah.
StubHub Center.
Yep. Yeah. And then the next year they had it there. And then I attended it, pretty much every year after that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Probably a better story than the British guy.
Yeah. Thing is, when I started my first kind of when the way that I was like shown CrossFit, we had an American guy come over to my gym, and I was like 16, just started kind of doing my fitness instructing and things like that. And he was like, "Man, you got to try this CrossFit." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, well, like I'm interested. Like, let's see what's up." I was playing kind of semi-professional rugby, and he showed me the CrossFit.com. And it was the old style CrossFit.com. And I looked at the website and I was like, what the hell is this? This looks horrible. And then obviously no one explained anything to me about scaling options, nothing. And I think it was like pistols and like 32 kilo kettlebell swings or something like that. And I just went and tried this workout. I couldn't do any of the movements and like got halfway through it. And I was like, nah, I don't think so. Like this CrossFit stuff is stupid. This ain't even going to last a year. So I gave up on it. I didn't think anything more of it. And I think that was 2012. So it was like kind of when they first had the Open. And yeah, he came back from America again, and he was like, "Man, did you try it?" I was like, "Yeah, it was stupid." And he was like, "No, you got to try it. You got to do more. You got to do more." And I was like, "Okay, man, shut up. I'm gonna go lift some heavy weight. Like, leave me to it." And so kind of just kept going with that. Kept going with playing rugby. Kept lifting heavy weight. Put on loads of weight. And then, obviously kind of was lifting a lot after university, after I finished playing rugby, and then realized I probably need to do some cardio because I was getting up to like 118 kilos, probably like 25% body fat. Not great. not great body composition. So I was thinking I need to do some cardio. And that's kind of, I've always been quite heavy. Was running around at like 95 kilos on a rugby pitch, like fairly lean. So I knew that I was going to stay heavy, but I knew that I had to do a little bit of sprinting, a little bit of running.
So rugby to CrossFit's like a big thing, huh?
Rugby to CrossFit is, in the UK, it's like the general way of going. And so, basically like went into my local CrossFit box, and I just wanted like somewhere to basically lift where I could chuck weights on the floor. Like I can had bounce plates and everything like that, bumper plates that we could chuck anywhere. I could lift anywhere, do whatever I wanted, and then also do a little bit of cardio, some rowing or anything like that as well. And I went to a local box, and then just kind of started going more often. Then they said, "Hey, try this competition," and I got my ass kicked. And I thought I was fit. So I saw these like little whippets like flying around doing stuff on the bar and putting themselves up into like muscle ups and stuff. And I was like, okay, like the competitive side of me came out. I was like, I got to do some of this. I need to do some more of it. And I actually happened to move house within like 500 meters of a CrossFit box. And so instead of going to work, some days I was going into a CrossFit box, hanging out with the guys. I think at that time I had like 140, 150 clean, something like this. And like I remember walking
Kilos or pounds?
Kilos.
Oh man, oh my God. I hate this guy. I hate you, dude. I'm like, all right, 145. I feel good now.
140, 150. I think, I think I was doing like 140 for like touch and go or something like that for free. Wow. I was like playing around with it just because I was training myself. They were fitness professionals and really worked a proper job. Walked in and I kind of said, I'm interested in starting CrossFit, like interested in coming and lifting with you guys. And they just give me like this kind of look up and down and like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? I was like, I want to lift, man. Like, I want to lift. And he was like, well, like, can you even clean? And I was like, yeah, man, like I can clean 140 kilos. And the kid was like, he looked at me like his expression changed immediately and was like, are you sure? and
That's
and I was
typical
like,
of a
right.
CrossFitter,
I was
though.
like, right, man, let's lift right now. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, that's good. And we lifted. I hit 140 kilos, hit 150 kilos, and like that guy, I'll give a shout out to him, Robbie. But he became my best friend over the course of the next kind of 18 months, and we were just training together all the time. And yeah, he got me into CrossFit really.
How soon after you got into CrossFit did you take your level 1?
I think it was pretty quick. I think maybe 6-7 months, something like that.
I found that absolutely, like, I didn't do mine until after like 5 years into CrossFit.
Yeah.
Like, I took a really long time, but I found that absolutely bizarre at the level 1 when they ask, like, how long have you guys been CrossFitting? You have people in there and it's like their first time. And I'm like, you just shut
Wow.
up. Like, that's
Wow.
impossible.
Yeah, no, there was a few people like that as well. Yeah. Yeah, there's some people who, like, you could probably ask them, like, what's your gym experience? And they were like, nothing. I'm just interested in learning for myself.
Yeah, I found that absolutely crazy.
But that's the big hit right now on CrossFit too, is because people could get their certification in like 24 hours and all that stuff. And it's like, it's not as legit as it was, I'd say 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Hey, there's a test.
From my understanding.
There's an exam.
Everything has an exam.
Yeah.
It's
They
like,
spoon feed you the information. So if you don't pass
Don't tell them
it.
that, Meg. Don't tell them that. We have clients and kind of members and things like that here who have got their level 1, and then they're kind of like standing next to people coaching them in class and things like that. And I'm like, okay, so to your point, Mahdi,
that's why
like,
I discredit it, because I've met so many people there at the gym and they're like, yeah, I just got my certification in CrossFit. I'm like, dude, are you serious?
Yeah,
Like,
so it's like 2 days
no
of
offense to
experience.
anybody, but it's like, if you're gonna do something like that, CrossFit is a sport, in my opinion, that if you don't have a good coach, if you're not certified and well versed in weightlifting and all, it's a recipe for disaster. I mean, when I got into CrossFit, like, to get into it, that was it. I had a bad experience, and I hated CrossFit up until probably last year, I'd say, till the project came around. And I had been working with my coach for baseball stuff. And it was just like, when I'd gone to CrossFit boxes before, I'd be like, this is crazy. I'm going to get hurt if I'm doing all these moves. And, like, I had no business doing a snatch or any of that stuff. But then when I started to learn the competitive side of it, that's what kind of, that's the bug that bit me, is the competitive bug. CrossFit to me was a means of still competing at my age. Like, I'm pretty much done playing baseball. That's not happening. So it was like, CrossFit's the next best thing. And it was really the project. When I was, after the project, I did a couple of workouts that you'd posted. And then I went and I did a class at one of the other gyms. And I was like, all right, finishing respectably. Liam, the project, I mean, he was the one who founded it. And he was, you were coaching people online. You still coach people online, which is great. And you're posting free workouts, which I think was awesome because everyone could do them. And that's where I picked it up. I was like, all right, I could do most of this stuff, because it wasn't the crazy things like snatch and squat. And, I didn't know what a power clean was. I just knew what a clean was. I didn't know what a power clean was. I couldn't differentiate. So I saw all of those, and, you were awesome. If I had a question, I asked you guys, you responded, and, you were very engaging online. And I mean, the project was awesome because it gave me a gauge of where I wanted to go and how to get there and where I was at currently. So that was good for me. That felt good. So what you did with that was awesome. I mean, starting that up and giving people a free resource to get some good content and good information was awesome. I mean, both of you put out good content, on social media, which I think is amazing, because I think everything's going to be free anyways, sooner or later, in terms of content. And that's what got me into it. Man, when I competed in that first class at one of the local gyms, I was like, all right, if I can compete with this old guy and this young guy that you told me about, I was like, all right. I was like, and I signed up for my first competition in January.
I think that is the main draw that people get into CrossFit with, is the competitive nature of it. Like, kind of everyone starts their workout at the same time. Everyone's kind of, if it's a lifting, then kind of you're hearing people, like, if they're hitting PRs, then there's a bell, people ringing the bell. Everyone, as I said, everyone starts to work out at the same time. You see whether people are finishing or not. Maybe some people, like, you can see them, they've shaved a few reps off. You get angry about it. Like, kind of, like, it's so many things that kind of everyone loves, that kind of competitive, that get the competitive juices flowing. But also, obviously, kind of, I guess, as me and Meg have probably seen as well, the bit of experience in coaching, people can take that a little bit kind of far. And then they start being competitive against people who are at the games, who are like regional athletes, and they're going, okay, so Matt Fraser is training 5 hours a day. That means I need to train 5 hours in my day. Like, it's kind of obviously that is massively incorrect. So it's kind of, I guess, come back to what you said earlier as well about having the right coach.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And having
That's
the
a
right
big one.
influence as well to kind of make sure that you're kind of not kept in your lane, but kind of you're pushed in the right direction at the right speed.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's what I enjoyed about the time that I was in it, was that everyone was kind of competing at that level where it was like everyone had their daily life and their daily jobs, and they had other things that they enjoyed. And it was, this is something like the community side for sure. It brought us all together, and we love that. And we were gym rats for sure. It's like it shifted into, this is what people were doing basically for their full-time job. And I think people miss that side of it, that they had like a least restrictive schedule and scenario to be able to train like that, to get to that level. And like, you get people that are in their full-time job that, maybe have kids and maybe have other things, and they're trying to break themselves to get to that same kind of level of competition. But different
and also,
lifestyles.
I guess they're starting from like a step behind where people were starting from before. Like, I mean, with yourself, like kind of coming from a high level of swimming background, like you're able immediately to go into your first CrossFit workout and go pretty fast or finish pretty early.
CrossFit was the way we trained, for swimming. And to be fair, like in swimming, when I started my first year, I wasn't that great. Like, I didn't get brought in on a big scholarship. I think I got $700 a semester, which was like enough for my books. Like, it wasn't much. And I was like, you know what? I just want to do it to meet friends. That's really it. And I enjoyed it, and I stuck with it first and second year. And I was getting better, but I still wasn't qualifying for nationals or anything like that. And then I just started working in the off season. Like, I enjoyed the weight room, and that stuff was all new to me. Like in high school, we didn't lift, and swimming.
I think a lot of Kuwait is at the moment, where you've got a massive bodybuilding population, or that was the predominance of the types of training that was around here before, which is exactly the same as the rest of the world. Everyone came from that kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger era of like, okay, I'm going to do biceps and triceps on one day, then I'm going to do back and whatever on another day. Probably skip legs most days. But, even though Arnold didn't do that, but people would decide to. But yes, people come from that, and now they're coming into, okay, now I want to be fit. Now I don't want to be huge. I don't want to be a massive muscle mountain. I want to be lean. I want to be able to move. I want to be able to run after my kids. Like, I want to be able to do something.
Reach
in
over
the future.
my head.
Yeah, I want to be able to reach over my head.
Their mentality isn't that.
Yeah. Like, I don't think it's necessarily the mindset of people who are in the industry. Like, not the majority of people anyway. It's the trust in that small majority of people who are giving out information. And those guys have only known bodybuilding. They're probably very, very good at giving out information on bodybuilding. But on doing anything else and being successful at anything else, bodybuilding doesn't always kind of translate very, very well. Especially not when you're looking at being fit, gymnastically good, technical, and strong and mobile all at the same time.
Yeah.
With average genetics.
Yeah.
With average
Yeah,
genetics.
with average
I think that's
genetics,
really important to hit on.
And most of the time only training an hour a day.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, that's a hard thing to translate across, and it's only natural that people are going to be like, well, this worked, maybe this pill or this injection or whatever worked for me in bodybuilding, so it must work in this. Like, actually, maybe that's not the case. And so that information, I think, is old information.
Did you know any bodybuilders, strict, like, like what I'm talking about, go from that to CrossFit? I haven't seen any.
I haven't seen
I've
any
seen them
here,
jump into
but
WODs, but I haven't seen.
I don't know of any
Like,
here.
There's definitely a couple who I know have trained like at the likes of Oxygens or places like that, and then they've decided to come to a CrossFit gym more, but they weren't necessarily like deep in the bodybuilding mentality. But back home in the UK, like, you see it a lot, and I think because people. And again, I think because the information on both sides, so not just the information on the bodybuilding side, but the information about fitness in general is a lot more accessible. And so when people went to CrossFit or they went to doing a different sport, then they kind of went, hey, okay, there's good information here and there's reasons why I should do that. I might mix up a little bit of my old bodybuilding style because I enjoyed it, and maybe this running style or this gymnastics bit. But I keep saying this week for some reason, but as soon as they understand that their actions have consequences, like, so if they're going to go and do a huge set of bicep curls on a Thursday, maybe their pull-ups on a Friday in the CrossFit class are going to be pretty hard. Like, they kind of go, okay, well,
you gotta get that pump for the weekend, man.
Yeah, get that weekend pump. But yeah, as soon as they understand that there's consequences for that, and actually, like, the bodybuilding style training tends to get, like, the eccentric load on muscles tends to get a little bit of muscle soreness, makes muscles tight. Maybe they don't function as well, especially if you're not eating very well, if you're not drinking enough water, if you're not sleeping well. Then that they kind of need to know that that's what's going to happen. So if they're not told that, hey, Thursday, go pump biceps, no problem, but don't come into Friday thinking that you're going to be able to run around and fly around like this 60-kilo guy over here who has never really trained a single isolation session of biceps and he only does pull-ups. Like, you're not going to beat him. Like, just because you've put yourself in a worse position than him the day before.
Yeah.
So, like, you kind of need to know that that's going to happen. And if people are given that information, then they can make a better decision, which I think is the important thing.
Yeah, that's a hard lesson that I learned, not necessarily from the, like, bodybuilding perspective, but just of understanding what you're putting your body under. And I think that they can become... overtraining can be quite a problem with CrossFit, of looking at that, like they need to specialize in something else. And then, wanting to jump back in the class and not thinking about what you're demanding on the body. So if you're going to break your body doing something, like you said, training your biceps one day and then going in and doing something where it's going to demand pull-ups, like, you're going to break down.
Or you find out you have rhabdo.
Exactly. So that's what happened was, going to that dark place.
I wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, I was getting there.
I was waiting for it.
But that's what happened. It was going in the pull, and the workout that I did, it was pull-ups and it was weighted sit-ups. And it's not the workout itself that gave me rhabdo. And I've always had, great coaches. And this was when it was kind of up to me. It was like, we were coming in off the holiday and it was like, here's the workout of the day. I was kind of doing it on my own. And I looked at it and thinking like, okay, I've had a few days off. Maybe I should scale it. And it was supposed to be like 5 rounds of pull-ups and sit-ups. And it was a higher number. And I was like, I think I should break this down into like 15 rounds and go for smaller numbers, just because I didn't feel like I could do that number of pull-ups, whatever. And then it just allowed me to go without any break, like nonstop, like kind of just blacked out in the workout. But it didn't hit me until like 3 days later. So I trained like that really hard, not understanding like what load I was putting on my arms, and with the weighted sit-ups, and it didn't get me. So I was training the next day. I don't remember what I did for my workout the day after that, or even the day after that, but it was that third night. I was also in a dodgeball league for work. And so everyone always laughs and they're like, yeah, you got rhabdo from dodgeball. I was like, but I noticed that night my arm's getting like increasingly sore, kind of swelling like after the game. And it was like, I couldn't straighten my arm. Next couple of days, it just got worse. And I kept thinking in the back of my head, I was like, I remembered seeing on the CrossFit Journal, because I used to read the journal articles on there. And I remember seeing that Pukey the Clown article with rhabdo. I don't know if you guys ever saw that picture, but yeah, it stuck out in my head. And I was like, so I printed out the article and I remember being in my office at work and I was like, couldn't straighten my arms and I was just feeling miserable. And I just started tearing up and I was like, I think I have this rhabdo. And
you should probably explain what rhabdo is.
So rhabdo is like, yeah, good call. Severe muscle breakdown. Basically, it leaks protein into your blood, filters through your kidneys, and it can cause kidney failure. So it makes the protein levels in your blood rise. So like if you were to get punched in the arm, so it's your CK levels is how they measure it. So if you were to get punched in the arm or anytime you train, your CK levels are going to rise up a little bit. That's just how, the muscles repair themselves. But with rhabdo, it's just such an increased level of that. There's so much protein in the blood that they can't filter that through. And that's what does damage to the kidneys. So some symptoms are like really dark colored urine is one that they talk about a lot. And then the arm swelling or whatever body part swelling, not being able to straighten the arm. So I didn't get the urine symptom. Like that wasn't one. And that was one I kept watching for. And I was like, okay, well, if it turns dark, then I know. But it was just, I couldn't straighten my arms and I was swollen. And then finally I just started vomiting like that third night. And so it was like 4 a.m. I had my roommate take me to the hospital. And in the ER, I remember telling the doctor, like I came in straight away and I was like, I have rhabdo. And he thought I was on drugs. He was just like, lady, chill out. Kept trying to explain to him, and they did all the tests and everything. And then came back like a couple hours later, and he was like, okay, we're going to admit you. And so this was already after, I think I'd already been doing CrossFit now by this point, like 4 or 5 years. So they admitted me, and then they confirmed that it was Rhabdo. I think my CK levels when I was admitted were at 11,000. And over the next like 6 days, they went up at like over 30,000. So it kept rising like every day, because they're like, well, as soon as we get these CK levels down, you can go back home. And like every day it was higher and higher. And I was like, why is it getting higher? And they were like, well, your body is basically still breaking down. It's still trying to recover. So just hooked up for IVs. I think I was there for like 7 days, and they had like med student groups and stuff coming in, and they were wanting to do all these studies because they're like, typically people who get Rhabdo are very new to the sport, and it's from an inexperienced coach, you know, having them do hundreds of air squats and pull-ups and all kinds of things that they don't understand what the effect is on the body. I was like, nope, been training for competition, been an athlete, been doing it for 4 years, and was like, nobody could really figure out why. Yeah, for 7 days, and they pump you full of fluids just to basically flush it out. And then it got all kinds of like respiratory issues after that. Like it was just such a big hit to the immune system and to the nervous system. It was really susceptible to a lot of digestive stress after that. So like food poisoning cases, you know, I got food poisoning quite often. But workouts were just never as much fun after that. Like it got to the point, standing underneath a pull-up bar and even thinking about jumping up there to do a pull-up, like I would get like a vomit feeling, like I was going to throw up.
Wow.
Yeah. At first I remember like I cried my first workout back in the gym because I was just with a PVC pipe and everybody was doing snatch, and that just like broke my heart because it was like everyone that I used to train for competition with, and I'm like, I'm stuck with this stupid PVC. So there's a big
and
ego.
You think you're competitive, Mahdi.
Yeah.
Have you cried in a workout yet?
No, I haven't gotten to that stage. I haven't gotten there yet. I hope I never get there. But is that why you left CrossFit? Just out of curiosity?
It's definitely the start of it. Like it just wasn't as fun anymore. That was in 2011. So I missed competition that year, and it was really just trying to get back into it. And just so much stress. I think it was 5 months after that. Was when I got salmonella food poisoning then. So it was like after I started to feel okay after the Rhabdo, like was getting back into the gym, and I wasn't lifting heavy weights by any means. But I was, you know, I missed the community, I missed the people. And for me, that's always been the best part of CrossFit. And so I was just kind of getting back into that and enjoying the workouts with the classes again. And then I got this bout of salmonella food poisoning, and that knocked me back in the hospital for like 6 days. And then ended up with some arthritis as a result of that. And I didn't connect the dots at the time of thinking that my immune system was just so shot from all of that, that it just destroyed my guts and made me a lot more susceptible to things like that. So that was hard to recover from. So that pretty much took out the whole year of just not being able to work out, started gaining weight, started getting depressed. And that's when I started looking at other things with the gym. So I started writing articles to, you know, help with like the women's side of it, like to break that fear of getting bulky and weightlifting and all these things that I was very passionate about, but wasn't able to do with myself at that time. Built up the retail store in the gym. We started putting on, you know, more local events, started going for like sponsorships for these events, and then started taking on the social media tasks of things. And so at the competitions, it's like I was doing the coverage for everything, which eventually led to being able to do an internship with HQ to do some media coverage, which was pretty cool. So it opened up a lot of other doors, taking that focus off of the competition. Like it was cool to get into the other sides of the business and see what CrossFit was all about. But yeah, I just never enjoyed the workouts as much as same. And through that networking, through all that stuff with the competitions, with the social media stuff, you know, join the classes and everything to get connected with the community. And I enjoyed it. But at that point, I just kind of accepted that I'm not really worried about going prescribed. Like I'm going to do this workout, just whatever level I'm at, do it for myself. Don't really worry about what the person next to you is doing, which was hard. But then it started to open up the love that I had just for like the Olympic weightlifting. So I got a lot into training for that and doing cycles for that.
So I guess it's quite interesting because you actually kind of came full circle from doing, like, I guess that you could say it was like overtraining, under recovery, like doing so much in such a competitive way. And then you almost you were forced to come back around full circle to like realizing the CrossFit dream of like general health and wellness.
Yeah. Definitely.
And that's now become a lot more your focus, right?
Totally. Yeah, definitely taking that shift. I think that's one of the things that just also kind of started to push me away from CrossFit was just the obsession that so many people have with the competition side. And I started to see more of just like, what are we really after? Like, if you want to go after competition, then fine, but you're going to sacrifice some longevity. Like, if you're after, like, if your goals really are things like being able to run around and play with your kids and get on the ground and take care of yourself and be independent when you get older, then that's a different side of it. Like, it's not breaking yourself down, you know, and going after the competition. There's the general health of it.
And that's a big thing as well. You're saying about scaling workouts now. So like you were at regionals, you had no choice but to be doing as prescribed workouts.
Yeah, you're shamed if you didn't.
So yeah, you were basically having to RX everything, probably even trying to do more than just the RX and some things as well. And now, like, there's no shame in scaling workouts when you know that you should.
Yeah.
Which I think is like an important message for listeners out there, and actually kind of knowing if you can't do it, there's no shame in it.
Totally.
And actually kind of making sure you're going through the right steps to go forward and make yourself better for the right reasons, rather than just going RX because your friend did it or like someone new you're trying to chase did it.
That's what's such an important lesson, because it wasn't as easy in the beginning. It was, you get into a class, especially when open comes around, right? You know, and you get back into that competition. I was like wanting to go in and do it, you know, full honor to what I used to do, or people knowing what, you know, the level that I used to be able to compete at and kind of, you know, pushing you to get into it. But it was that constant idea of like, I need to get back to what I used to be able to do. I need to get back to do it. Like, I was great at pull-ups, like, and now I like feel like I want to vomit every time I get on the bar. I was like, I need to get back to that. I need to get back to that. I need to keep going back. And I was like, okay, you really have to start with where you are now. And I think that's what a lot of people, especially if they've done sports before, if they've looked a different way before, they've felt different in their body before, they're always looking to go back to it. I want to get back to, you know, this body or this thing. And it's like, no, you have to accept where you're at now, and you have to step forward in that and accept that your life is completely different. You have different stress, different daily activities, different body, really. Like, your biology is also changing. Like, there's a lot of things that change. So you have to accept, like, this is where you are now, and that's how you move forward from it. And once I was able to just like, okay, got connected with the Ito Portal method, and that's starting with them. Then my first program I remember looking at for my upper body strength, and it was literally back to ring rows and basics of pull-ups, like static holds and everything like eccentric. And I was like, all right, this is it. And I followed that program for 2 years. And then I went back and did an open workout. And it was kipping toes to bar and kipping pull-ups were in a couple of the workouts. And I stood under the bar and I felt fine. Like, hanging was a big part of the Ito programming too. And I got underneath the bar and I did the most kipping toes to bar that I'd ever done. Like, my shoulders never felt stronger. I never felt better doing it. I was like, damn it, why didn't I do this like a long time ago? When my coach told me like 10 years ago, why didn't I do this?
But none of us listen to our coaches. Well, at the beginning, I mean, I still don't listen to my coach.
Please listen to your coaches, please.
I'm sitting over here. I'm just quiet. I'm quiet during all of this because I am the asshole in the gym that, like, if I see the guy next to me, like, you know, snatching, I don't know, like 200 pounds, I'm going to be like, all right, let me try and get as close to him as possible. But it's that competitive side. Yeah. Like you, I played college sports. Mm-hmm. You know, I played baseball my whole life. I've played on, you know, at a high competitive level. And it's that bug. It's that itch of, I want to be the best. I want to do the best. And it's only when I'm doing classes where if I jump into a class, my coach is there. If he sees me jump up to do a handstand push-up, pull-up, push-up, or if he sees me jump up to kip, and this was before I learned how to kip, he was like, dude, you have no business being up there. Just get down. And I'm like, no, but I can try. He's like, no, just get down. You're going to hurt yourself. And he talked me out of it. And then I eventually listened to it. I'm getting better. Yeah. I'm getting better, you know. Like,
no, I think there's definite value in training alongside people and pushing yourself, like whether it's a snatch, clean and jerk, whatever. If it takes someone else snatching next to you to snatch 200 pounds or whatever it is, for you to have a go. And generally, if you feel like you're in a confident position to be able to actually do that and you just needed that stimulus of someone else doing it, then I would say go for it.
I'm still only running a marathon with you, though.
But no, I think there's real value in that. And that's, I think, is like, again, one of the facets of what makes CrossFit so popular is the fact that you can work out next to everyone. You can work out next to your best mate, and you can try and beat each other. I guess what we're just trying to get at is kind of doing it within within some kind of boundaries, I guess. They're only your personal boundaries, and kind of and what you can and can't do, what is likely for you to be able to do and what is not likely for you to be able to do. And actually, really, if you need help with clarifying any of those,
but it's finding that right coach, though.
Yeah,
it's finding that right coach. You need a coach to tell you. You'll know, like you said, you'll know it when he says, no.
Take that weight off the bar, no, you're not ready to kip yet. Yeah.
I mean, it's just as much as you should have a coach who like pushes you and says yes to a lot of things and like goes, yeah, go. The more value I think in being a coach is telling like your client when to stop and just go, chill out a second. Like, we're on the way to this, but we're about 2 or 3 weeks away, or we're about 1 or 2 months away. Like, you don't need to hit it right now. Like, you don't even need to have a go right now.
Yeah.
I think that's when you find the coach who gives you that balance. That's probably a good sign that you've got a good coach, rather than someone who either says no to you too much or all the time, or yes to you all the time.
Definitely.
But that's where the injury rates come in. I mean, if you look at the research so far, they say everyone says CrossFit has the highest amount of injuries or whatever, but it's not true. It's actually long distance running, Olympic weightlifting, and something else. That's what all the recent research has said. Because people run like idiots. They run and they don't know
is actually way more common in running than it is in CrossFit.
Also, though, you can look at those statistics and you can find it's running is the most injury-prone sport, but also that's because the most amount of people do running in the world. Yeah. So the statistics can be skewed a little bit, but still does mean that running.
I mean, it depends on the sample size. The paper that I read last week was based on the sample size that they had taken and the number of training hours that each person had dedicated to that sport. CrossFit was in there. It was probably, I think it was 3.7 hours. Like if you train out of 1,000 hours, 3.7 of them, you're going to get injured or whatever. I mean, so it's the chance is there, but it's like any other sport. And it just like, it comes back to the coaching. It comes back to having someone as good as you guys that knows how to coach a client and knows how to lead them into success versus letting them lead you into their own failure, so to speak. Did that make any sense whatsoever?
No, it makes a lot of sense. Actually. I was surprised.
That bullshit right there.
Like,
had my attention
there.
oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Right, thank you.
Mahdi, Aloun, No, that made a lot of sense, actually. It does make a lot of sense. You need to have that balance. But that balance can't be achieved without good feedback as well. I think that's important to note, is that like a coach is only so good as how much information a client gives to that person. So like I've got people who I coach with who like they'll just accept everything. They're like, yeah, no worries, I'll do that. Yeah, no problem. And you're kind of going, well, tell me, like I need to know if it's too much. Don't be brave. Like if there's something that if you feel any niggles at all, anything that's like a little injury or anything starting, like you need to tell me. And like, yeah, I will. And then you see them kind of walking around, like rubbing their leg like consistently, like after every rep. And you're like, is your leg hurting? And like, oh, no. Like, it's hurting, isn't it? Just a little, like whenever I walk. Like, it's like, yes, so it hurts a lot.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
that's
something I need to know about.
Yeah.
But like, so like, I mean, it's a big example, but they kind of need that feedback constantly. And again, just to kind of say about my point before, that you need to give that feedback just as much. And if the coach isn't accepting of that feedback, you need to find a different coach.
Totally.
And if the coach isn't asking you for feedback, then the coaching relationship maybe isn't as good as it should be.
If you have pain, like your body's communicating something to you, like it's giving you some kind of information. Something needs to change, something needs to adapt, and it might not even be the problem, where you feel it. And so you kind of have to, ask the right questions to get back to that, but getting people to understand, like, is it actually pain or is it just, are you uncomfortable? Or is it normal muscle soreness or does it feel different than a normal muscle soreness?
And that's a good point on the adaptation of our bodies and the muscles. And, I mean, you get people here where their arms are burning for the first time. They're like, oh, that's pain, but that's not pain, But
well, some people enjoy that pain way too much.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, no, it hurts so much. It's great. You're like, is that like a good pain? Or
there's something else going on
pain?
that we need to talk about
It's like, okay. I mean,
who the hell are you training, man?
I train some beasts. Like I got I think, I don't know whether it's my personality, like, but I think I kind of attract some people who just want to literally just work hard all the time. And so for the most part, my like the hard thing that I find with coaching is like when to stop them.
Yeah.
Like, because most of the guys, they just want to just go. And the girls, they just want to go all the time. And if they're not training, they're like, why am I not training? Like, why have I only got 2 workouts or 2 Metcons today? Why have I only got 1 lifting session and then some accessory work? Like, I want to lift. And I'm like, okay, like, don't worry. Like, we need to have a bit of a deload week every once in a while. And actually, when you see your training for tomorrow, then you'll realize why.
You'll thank me. Yeah, that's one of the biggest battles that I had in the beginning of shifting from that, when we started with that boot camp kind of, concept, and shifting into more weightlifting and talking to them. Like, you have to educate them, like the nervous system. Like, you have to talk to them about it, because it was like, listen, I'm not trying to get you in pain every day. Like, I don't want you sore every day. And you shouldn't be. Like, being sore does not mean you had a good workout.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the goal.
A big thing as well, and I just thought of it just because a client came to me this week about it, and he said, man, I never get to have, like, when I feel good one day, like really good, the next day it never feels good. And I was like, well, I can tell you exactly why. It's because when you feel good, you do too much.
Yeah.
And you keep going and you keep going and you do more than like I've programmed for you, or you do more than like you feel like you should. You go until you're absolutely finished that day. So then the next day, you haven't recovered properly enough. And so you feel pretty crappy. Like, you feel pretty rubbish. Yeah. And so the next day is not going to be as good, because you pushed yourself just a little bit too hard. If you just finished where we're supposed to finish, get the intensity in, go home, eat, recover.
Trust the process. Yeah. And on that note, thank all the listeners, and, please subscribe and write a great review and help us out, first episode, and we'll, hopefully you'll catch us next week.
Any feedback is always needed as well.
Definitely.
So anything at all that any of the listeners have, want to hear about, want to talk about, want us to talk about, then let us know.
Throw the questions and comments our way for sure.
Definitely any questions. And if you want to see Liam and me work out together and me be his water boy, we'll let you know. And so
YouTube video coming soon.
Yeah. You guys can tune in and see me be the towel boy.
That's it.
I'll be hanging from the bar in the corner.
Meg will be hanging. Ready to rehab me.
I'll be passing out Pedialyte.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at The Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.